On the buzzer. Beep, pew pew, pew, pew pew, pew, pew pew, pew. The Leupold Delta Point Pro. Pew pew. This particular model has the 6 MOA dot. Pew. But they also come in 2.5 MOA. Pew pew, pew pew pew. Pew, 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 pew. They're also available in both black and FDE as seen here. Pew pew, pew. There are several pros and cons to talk about with this thing. So let's start with the pros. Beep, pew pew, pew. It is American made. Pew pew, pew. It's reasonably priced. Pew pew, pew. And Leupold has an exceptionally good warranty. Pew pew, pew. But is that all the things you really need? Pew pew, pew. When you are buying an optic of any sort? Well, pew pew, pew. There's only one true way to find out. So let's see what comes inside the box. I will specify that as of today's current filming, it is July 15th. On EuroOptic.com, the non-night vision versions, whether it's the 2.5 or 6 MOA, black or FDE, are $450, and the night vision versions like this are $550 over at EuroOptic. You can buy them at a bunch of different places, but those are the prices as of right now. Because I know someone somewhere in the future is going to go, where are you getting these prices from? Because it happens almost every single time I do a video. Anyway, the box is typical Leupold. You have a nice, decently thick piece of cardboard, but on the inside you have this very tightly fitting, thick foam, which is very soft and lush. You have a neoprene cover that is marked to Delta Point Pro. It comes with 2 Allen keys, as well as 2 mounting screws if you so need them. The owner's little booklet is also very informative, so that's always nice to know and keep on hand. As far as the weight on this thing, this is a fairly large looking optic, and it does have that little shell on the outside edge to protect the lens, but it still comes in at a fairly svelte 1.9-ish ounces, which really isn't that heavy all things considered. But if you were going for lighter weight, something like the Holosun EPS as seen here is significantly lighter. However, it's also significantly smaller, especially in one aspect, and this is going to be the first con that we're going to be talking about: the deck height. Look at how thick the base is on the Delta Point Pro. The screws that come with it are extra long because you will need them, because odds are you're not going to have the right length screws to make it fit. The EPS does have an exceptionally short deck height, but really looking at these two side by sides accentuates just how thick that Delta Point Pro base is. What does that mean for you? Well, if you're trying to run this in conjunction with regular height iron sights on your pistol, you might have a bit of an issue unless they cut that slide down really, really, really deep. Another area that we have to talk about is going to be the battery compartment. It is on top, which means that you do have easy access to it and you don't have to remove it every single time to change the battery. And it does pop up out of the way like so. It's actually very nice. The battery is a standard size CR2032, so you have plenty of extra long battery life. The compartment on the inside looks extremely well finished, and it's very easy to slide the battery in with the tip, or rather the forward facing edge, going in at a slight angle, and then you just close the door, it locks in securely, and you are good to go. That little latch on the far left I found to have no issues whatsoever. But there's a problem with that. But first, let's listen to the turrets. Nice sound, nice feel. Not half bad at all. The windage and elevation turrets have a very nice tactile sound and feel to them. Really fills you full of confidence when you're making an adjustment that you know you're going the exact amount that you hear and feel. But talking about a negative, we're down here and let's say we want to adjust our brightness. We're currently at full. To adjust the brightness, you have to press the button. And when you press the button, you obscure the emitter. What that means is that you can very easily go past the brightness setting that you're trying to get to and then have to go through the entire process over again starting from fresh. It's a real pain in the butt. It does blink at the top of the brightness and at the lower end of the brightness, so you know where you are in that regards, like there, but it's still not an ideal situation. I know they put the buttons this way. It's less means of egress. There's less moving parts, probably cheaper to produce, but it's not without its minor flaws. Speaking of minor inconveniences, the window on the frame where the emitter pokes through to reflect back on the lens so you can see the dot is square. And on certain brightness levels in certain environments, I have found that it reflects this perfect square around the dot. Here you could just make it out. It's much easier to the naked eye than it is on camera, but it's really friggin' annoying sometimes. Also, the dot, maybe it's only with the 6MOA version, never seems truly sharp to my eye or on camera. Speaking of the glass though, it's got a very large window and a very minor amount of blue tint. The blue tint is there to help reflect the red emitter back to your eye, so it doesn't have to stress the emitter out by trying to get extra bright for you to be able to see it. Distortion is minimal, but there is some there. The dot itself does appear pretty decently sharp here. We're at about 15 yards on this first set of targets to about 25, and everything out in the back beyond that is about 50 yards. I filmed this throughout multiple different months, so here in the dead of winter we have a little bit of snow, which is just to give you a representation of how well it works in these sort of environments. It's not ideal, but it's a good way of showing you how it's going to actually look. Now yes, the dot to my eye is never perfectly sharp, but I never had an issue with the dot itself, nor with the glass. However, there was something I did have an issue with, and that was with the elevation. I've had this thing on 2 different handguns, 3 slides total, and I ran out of elevation adjustment. It always shot very, very low. I couldn't bring it up. Don't know what was going on with that, but that's just how it was.
All right.
At about 10 yards here, I switched guns at this point. This is on a MMP 2.0 with suppressor height sights. Look at how small they look compared to the Delta Point Pro, again because of how high the deck height is. Even though I had a problem with the windage, I adjusted it. I could not get a better setup with the elevation, so I had to hold high. Once I figured that out, it was easy making all the shots that I needed. So I don't know if it was something with this particular model or overall, but there's definitely a problem with the elevation. Once I got that all sorted, the very large window of the Delta Point Pro and the 6MOA dot meant it was very fast and easy for me to bring it up, get on target, and squeeze off a shot, especially once I knew where I was holding. The window is giant. We already saw it compared to an EPS, and the EPS already has a pretty good sized window, and the dot of 6MOA is large and easy to pick up. My eye does not like 6MOA dots. They never seem sharp or clear to my eye, like I've mentioned. And it's not just with the Delta Point Pro, it's with even the EPS. Even though that was green, and my eye definitely doesn't pick up green as well as red, and that is absolutely something that you should consider whenever you're doing a purchase of a red dot. Do you go with the smaller dot for more precise, longer range shots, or the larger one for closer, faster engagements? But see, I want to run this with a night vision. Why buy something that's night vision capable for an extra $100 if I'm not going to plan on running it with night vision? You are absolutely right. So I pop on my PVS 14 back at the end of winter, and we get cracking with seeing how good this thing looks. As you can very clearly tell, my Gen 3 Green Phos PVS 14 is set to infinity, and that dot looks like a big giant mess. If I was to go night vision, which I am now considering for all of my builds, I go with a smaller dot. And you'll see that with more footage of other optics in the near future. I will roll in momentarily what some other dots look like, especially smaller ones. But this 6MOA dot is just way too large for my personal uses and preferences, and it just doesn't seem all that great. I close my iris down basically to its smallest setting to help with the depth of field, but it minimizes the overall brightness coming through it. But that extra depth of field does help sharpen that dot considerably, but it still looks really, really large. I personally prefer smaller dots, and that's something that you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. The glass-wise, though, on this Delta Point Pro is exceptional. It just melts into the background. You can see that little bit of distortion once you have the gun at an extreme angle or cant, and the window just sort of dissolves into nothing. It's a great optically, but the dot in 6MOA form is just not right. Just to give all y'all a little bit better understanding of what a 3MOA dot on another pistol sight would look like, this is the Steiner MPS with the 3MOA dot at Midnight Brutality that I shot this year. Conditions were very bad, dark overcast skies, and very dense tree cover. The window on this doesn't seem as good when compared to the Delta Point Pro, but the dot is very sharp, clear, and in my opinion, the perfect size. I think anything larger than 3MOA is going to just get in the way of some of your targets, so keep that in mind again when you are cross-shopping this with what your ultimate end game is. So I had the Delta Point Pro for almost a year, I would say. I've put several hundred rounds through it. It's been on 2 guns, my CCP-10C and this, my M&P competitor, and it's been fine. My only gripes with it are, well, the dot is too big for my liking, but it is what it is. If I had bought the 2.5 MOA version, I bet I would have been much happier with it. And I probably would have enjoyed the night vision performance a lot more as a result of that, because the glass on this thing really is excellent. I do have the gripe with the button being on top. I don't like how it obscures the dot, but that's not the end of the world kind of thing that you don't buy an optic for. It's worked perfectly fine, and I never had an issue with it other than it just being an annoyance. I also really like the FDE coloration of this. I'm very happy to see manufacturers bringing out colors other than black. It's just, again, a personal preference for me. At the end of the day, do I recommend it? I do, but with a twist. I would only get the 6 MOA version in a non-night vision setup. I'd save the extra $100 and use it for things like this. For competition use, it was great. The dot to my eye was never as nice as many other dots. Again, it could have just been me, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, you won't know how good it's going to perform for you until you really get behind it. Oh, hi, kitty. Yes, I know I love you too. We'll play later. Night vision wise, the dot definitely does get low enough brightness wise to work for night vision. The glass is exceptional for it. I really wish I had gotten the 2.5 MOA version. I think it would have performed significantly better, but it is what it is. Before I wrap this review up one more time side by side, but this time with the Steiner MPS to really showcase how thick that bottom base is on the Leupold. I don't like it because I feel like I'm looking over the gun, not like through the gun. And I feel like I also have a hindrance with my performance as far as zero holding with that. You can see a little bit of reflection back on the glass right there. A lot of that comes from the board, which you could see right there at the center of the glass. Gets right in the way of that push button. One other feature that I forgot to mention was this thing does have shake awake. I did not film for it, but it does work. I also mentioned earlier how you can see the board around the dot. You can see a little bit of it there reflecting backwards at you. It's stuff like that that just really, it just annoys the crap out of me. The deck height's really high, the reflection coming back at it. Is it a 6 MOA thing versus a 2.5? I'm not really too sure. But at the end of this video, do I recommend it? Well, I already really touched on that. 6 MOA, only if you're going to be shooting fast targets up close. It excels in that region. The glass is very large on it, minimal distortion, and a very bright, easy to pick up dot, albeit maybe not the sharpest dots. For night vision use, I would absolutely go with the 2.5 MOA. I'm sure that would excel exceedingly better than this. The only real negative I had was the fact that I ran out of elevation on it, and I couldn't get the exact zero I wanted, even at like 15 or 20 yards, which just doesn't seem right to me. And, well, that's all there really is to it. There's plenty of other options out there if you wanted to go with something that's enclosed, for example, or something that's way less expensive. But this is still an American-made red dot, and that's got to be, appreciated. If you were looking to buy a Trijicon RMR, you're going to be spending at least the same amount of money as this, maybe a little bit more, and you're not getting anywhere near as nice a glass. So it's going to be gives and takes across the board. I absolutely feel that there's still room for improvement with this thing, and if Leupold ever does come out with a Gen 2 version of this, then I do think it would be a much better product if they address the things that are clearly wrong with it. With all that being said, though, that is going to conclude this review. Thank you all very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you again next time. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe Star subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you could still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.